studies confirm that kids ruin your life. At least that was a survey that was done by Gallup, and it was actually two major
done by
surveys.
Gallup in conjunction with my mom.
So there were two major surveys, both done by Gallup, and they both have to do with the same thing. How do couples with children feel in comparison to couples that do not have children? So the first study focused specifically on Americans. The second study focused on the global scale, what people in other countries feel. And here's what they found. We find in terms of life evaluation, people with kids and people without kids are not very different, but people with kids have more joys and happiness as well as more negative emotions like anger, worry, and stress. Now, the reason why this study is actually pretty good is because they didn't ask, like, how do your children make you feel? Because oftentimes when you do that, a lot of times parents will justify their reasons for having kids by pretending as if they're totally happy and everything's great. But they just asked in general, like, here are some emotions. How often do you feel this emotion? How often do you feel that emotion? And of course, there were positive and negative emotions in the survey. So basically, look, overall, they have the same level of happiness, or they report the same level of happiness. However, those with children experience negative emotions much more often. It's more of a roller coaster.
Yeah,
you guys like my gestures?
Yeah. Oh, a roller. I didn't know what a roller coaster was, but when we went like this,
Yes.
I finally got it. A study also this week, interestingly, came out in by the Open University in the UK, I believe. A study of 5,000 people found that gay couples are likely to be happier and more positive about their relationships than heterosexuals. 5,000 people, the gays come in as happier. It found that simple things like making a cup of tea in the morning, taking it to them, were the most treasured by couples as examples of intimacy rather than dramatic gestures such as declaring, I love you. Heterosexual parents are the group least likely to be there for each other, to make couple time, to pursue shared interests, to say I love you, and to talk openly to one another. So the findings in these studies are super similar.
Yeah.
That heterosexual parents are the worst. I fucking hate heterosexual parents. But that gay couples, LBGQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer, to this in this article, are more generally positive about and happier with the quality of the relationship and the relationship that they have with their partner. So gay without a kid, that's the road to happiness.
All right.
Heterosexual with a kid, you're fucked.
All right, let me write this down. So
Yeah.
No, I mean, it is really interesting to see how people do after they have children, because I think a lot of times, especially in the culture that we live in today, there's so much emphasis on procreating. Have children. When are you gonna get married? Oh, you got married. When are you gonna have kids, right? And there's like this pressure that people feel all the time. And a lot of times people just kind of go about the motions without really considering whether or not having a child is something that they want to do.
Right.
So I like that studies like this might allow people to take a step back and really reconsider whether or not having a child makes sense for them. Now, we talked about what happens in the United States. Let's talk about what happens globally. According to Gallup, our results for the world as a whole, as well as for Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and South Asia, are consistent with the most common finding in literature, that those with children have lower life evaluations. Okay, the authors of the report by the UK's Open University, this is a different study.
No, this is it. This is the same report.
Oh,
We're reading different takes on the same report.
They say they looked at numerous factors that make relationships happy. The survey of 5,000 came to the conclusion that childless, married, and unmarried participants are happier with their relationship and their partner than parents.
Yeah, no question. If you're not a parent, you're more likely to be happier. And then, so right after that line, the study founded by the Economic Science Research Council found that couples without children are generally likely to be happier than parents. The next sentence, in addition, it says mothers were the least likely group to be satisfied with their partners. So you get to be a mother, and then you're more likely to be complaining about your life and your kids and pretty much everything.
Think about how stressful it is when you first have a baby, right? I mean, you have this innocent, defenseless little human being that you have to take care of.
Plus you have the baby. Okay, sorry, go on.
You're dark. And then, okay, finally, like you've raised the child to the point where he or she can go to school and you get a little bit of a breather, but then come the teen years. And I imagine that's probably the most stressful, where they're rebelling. I was a terrible teenager. I put my mom through hell. I don't want to go through that. And I remember when I was a teenager, my mom would always tell me, like, I can't wait until you have a daughter your age one day. And then, like, I would always think in my head, like, I got to prevent that from happening, you know?
Right.
So I'm glad that these studies exist, and do with it what you'd want to do with it.